Plaintiff Michael DeVita says the defendant is his son, and he raised him as a single dad. Michael claims the defendant started to rebel as a teenager, and their relationship became so strained that it led to them getting into a physical fight. Michael suing for the balance due on a car. Defendant Giovanni DeVita says growing up, nothing he ever did was good enough for his father. Giovanni claims even though he got good grades and stayed out of trouble, his father treated him like a delinquent, so eventually he started acting out. He's countersuing for car repairs.
Start with you.
I am the father of the defendant. I raised him as a single dad. This is a picture of when he was, this is our first studio picture together.
All right.
Anyway, sorry.
What was he like growing up?
Oh, he was a cute kid back then.
He still seems like he's a handsome guy.
Oh yeah, he's
You're talking about his character? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, Your Honor. He was a good boy, and you know, I raised him by myself.
Graduated high school?
Yes, he did, Your Honor.
All right. Did he go beyond that? Or?
He has gone beyond that. He's, from what I understand, he's in college now. And
Okay. Immediately after high school, what did he do?
Video games. Video games and watching basketball and not.
When did he start working or going to school? How old was he?
That was pretty much after he'd moved out.
Okay. Why did he move out?
Well, at one point we had gotten into a confrontation because after high school it was more video games and watching basketball on TV than it was actually working or helping with the household or anything. And it would kind of start out as a tough love thing, and I kind of gave him the option of either
going to work, going to school, or going somewhere else.
Place. And at that point it got a little bit, he got upset and he took a swing at me in the kitchen, and I said, this isn't going to happen in this house. And so I said, you want to fight? Let's go outside. And I was pretty shocked because he went outside.
Did you lock the door? You had a good way to get, that was a nice little way of getting him out. Lock the door, call the locksmith.
Yeah,
and
I should have done that. And
what did happen? How did that incident end?
Followed him outside the door, and we're in the front yard, and he took a swing at me again. And I have no clue how this happened because he's a pretty strong kid, but I ducked and I kind of flipped him over and held him, I pinned him down more out of fear or anything.
And it ended that day?
I figured he'd probably whip my butt. So.
Defendant Giovanni DeVita says the plaintiff is his father, and he claims the plaintiff was so hard on him as a child that it drove him to be rebellious.
Let me hear from you, young man.
Well, I mean, this goes back way before, after high school. It always seemed like anything I did was never good enough. When I was in middle school, high school, you know, I was getting A's. For instance, what I mean by nothing was ever good for him. If I were to get an A-, he would write me about how it wasn't an A+. You know what that's like, just...
Did you?
I did, Your Honor. I was...
Why?
You know, when he was a baby, I read him this book called The Little Engine That Could. And that's how I raised him, was with this book, and I'm sure he remembers it because...
Everybody's not an A+ student. You're lucky that he got A-.
Well, no,
you gonna chastise him because he got A? Go ahead, young man. That's enough, sir. I understand now. Go ahead, young man.
And not only that, like you mentioned, I'm really interested in basketball, so after school, I would always be at the park or at the school playing basketball with my friends. But when I would come home, he'd treat me like as if I was outside doing drugs, drinking, in gangs, doing something I'm not supposed to do. So, you know, getting, you know, A's that aren't good enough, doing nothing bad, getting treated like you're a horrible person, eventually just, I guess you could say, you know, I rebelled. I started to rebel into high school. You know, my grades started to drop and my attendance dropped, and, you know, admittedly, you know, all that happened, but then our relationship got even worse, leading up to moments where we would argue. And then when I was 14, he kicked me out to go live in San Bernardino with my aunt. So, because
right. Well, at that point, Your Honor, most of the A's were for absent.
Okay, sir. All right, and tell me about the car you're suing him for.
Back in February, I sold him a car for $8,000, and he made an initial down payment, and he made some subsequent payments, but the payments were just never what they should have been. And then a couple months later, he stopped making the payments.
What were the payments to be per month?
$750 per month.
Wow, you had a pretty decent job, obviously, by then.
Well, yes, Your Honor. He was.
What are you doing, young man?
I just work at U-Haul, customer service rep. That's actually that was really high for me. It was struggling to try to pay that.
And you lived at home, though, with your dad?
No, I haven't lived with my dad since I was like
Where do you live?
18. I was also, I started renting an apartment from him. So.
And how much was your rent?
$500 a month.
All right. And did you tell your dad that?
Yes. I told him that it was just too high. Because what he didn't mention right now is originally the payment was supposed to be $500 a month. Because before I had taken the studio that he was going to give me, I was renting my own place for about $500. So he said that, well, come here, because I needed a car. So he said, I'll sell you my car, $500 a month. You're paying the rent, you can afford, that's about the same amount. Okay. So instead of paying rent there, buy the car. So I did because I needed the vehicle.
So the original agreement for the vehicle was $500?
$500, yes.
Is that true?
Your Honor, the agreement that I remember is what we have here in writing. Now, the apartment he was renting, renting from me.
So the answer is no? It's never been $500?
Not to my recollection.
Okay, good enough. All right, and so he failed to pay how many months, or what is the balance due on the car?
Well, the balance right now is $5,350.
Okay, sir, what do you say about this?
The reason I stopped making payments in March was because, like I said, I was running the studio from him, and there was a lot of problems with the apartment. Really bad leaks, mold in the kitchen, no hot water because the water heater wasn't working.
And you stopped paying your rent?
Yes. I stopped paying for the vehicle.
No, those are two separate things.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do if you can't get the repairs made that you request. You stop paying your rent, and then he takes you to court. That's the way this goes. He says, I'm going to evict you because you're not paying your rent. You tell the judge, I'm not paying my rent because he won't repair it. And then the judge typically will make the landlord repair it if you can prove that it needs repair. In the meantime, landlord says, put your rent in escrow, so that you're just not throwing it away or spending it, and when he fixes it, you can't pay. So that's how that goes, but that has absolutely nothing to do with the car.
Defendant Giovanni DeVita says the plaintiff is his father, and he claims the plaintiff was so hard on him as a child that it drove him to be rebellious.
What about the car repairs? You're suing him for $560. How so?
Yes, Your Honor. Well, he had completely misrepresented the condition of the car. He told me when I got it, there was no problems, wouldn't even have to spend a dime.
How many miles did it have, do you recall?
121,000, around there. 121 or 100.
You thought it was in what condition?
I took his word for it, what he had told me. He told me it would be in perfect condition.
Your Honor, he test drove the vehicle.
Perfect condition, a car with 121,000 miles?
Well, I knew it wouldn't be perfect, but I wouldn't assume that it would have the issues that it would have.
What issues did it have?
Well, when I took it to get an oil change.
How long after purchasing it did you take it to get an oil change?
A month. And the mechanic told me that I immediately need to replace the spark plugs.
Of course.
And
you go to a mechanic for one thing, you know he's going to pile on 5 things. But because you're not with a real mechanic.
That's right, Your Honor.
All right.
He told you needed spark plugs. What else?
And serpentine belt, and then it was leaking coolant. It was always leaking coolant, and it was leaking from, I believe, a thermostat.
From day one?
Yes, it was always leaking.
Why didn't you look into it?
Well, I didn't really notice until I happened to park back a little more than I usually park, and I seen the.
Let's see what you have with the car repairs. Sir, what do you say to this?
I have quite a bit of rebuttal evidence, Your Honor. I have the car sale agreement says, as is, right here in paragraph 5. My son test drove the car many times to sometimes just errands to run to the store or whatever.
And he drove it for a month, and these are very minor things, sir, that a car with 121,000 miles might need within a month. It's probably going to need it every month, let me tell you that. So your judgment is granted. His only defense to paying the car off is that you didn't repair the sink or whatever you didn't repair in the house. Those are two separate things. Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiff. Yours is dismissed.
Giovanni, can we get past this?
Wow, come on, man. Why don't you show him any current pictures? You got no current pictures.
I moved away.
No.
Oh. I love you, son. This is hard.
Man, all you care about is money. That's all it is. That's the whole reason that you're still suing me. You don't even care about trying to fix a relationship with me or nothing. You're just all about money.
Well, I have gift card for my grandson and one for you to take your girl to the movies. Just take him, son.
You can bring it.
Just take him.
You can't make the drive 6 hours to come and see me?
I can do
Come
that.
see your
I can
grandson?
do that. I didn't know the invitation was open.
Didn't know you needed an invitation.
Did your roommate leave without notice before your lease expired, and now you don't know what to do about it? Ask me about it on my website, askjudgemathis.com.